All right, y'all, let's talk some Giants free agency, the draft, and of course, all things NFL with 13-year NFL vet, Super Bowl champ, and you can catch him on CBS Sports, Jason McCourty. Jace, man, never a dull day in NFL news. How's the offseason treating you, bro?
Oh, it's been good. A little bit more family time, but like you said, stuff is always happening. You're always giving an opinion and keeping up with everything that's going on. So all season's always a fun time. A lot of hope throughout 32 different locations right now this time of the year.
Well, there's a lot of hope in one location, East Rutherford, to be exact. Joe Shane, GM Joe Shane, said that the Giants were a quarterback away. Then he went out and he signed both Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. Do you think that one of these dudes are the QB1 to get the Giants over the hump?
Now, be the thing you got to define is the hump. Is what hump are we talking about? I think with those two guys in that quarterback room, you get over the hump of just being competitive. I think you look at their team last year. I had a game at MetLife throughout the end of that season, and there was somebody flying a plane over the stadium asking for John Mayer to fix the dumpster fire. I think with both Jameis Winston, with Russell Wilson in that quarterback room, you don't get that. You don't get fans with bags over their heads. You get quarterbacks that come in there and they know what it's like to be a professional. Every locker room that Jameis Winston has been in, people have raved about him as an individual and him as a person. I think the on the field part of it, there's a high ceiling of playmaking, yards, and touchdowns, but also he turns the ball over. The Cleveland Browns led the NFL in turnovers, and a lot of that had to do with the play of the quarterbacks, including him. I think Russ is a guy that's destined to be the starter. If you just look at the contracts and what both of those guys got paid, I think what Russell Wilson brings at this point in his career is a guy that can throw the ball on the outside. I think for Brian Dable and his offense, you're going to have to establish the run game. Russ is going to have to get the ball out quick and do those type of things. But I look at Russell Wilson last year in Pittsburgh. The expectations were extremely high. It was to get to the playoffs. It was to win a playoff game. Him coming over to the New York Giants is just, we need you to go out there and play quarterback and do it at an okay level. I think that's the biggest thing. I don't think get over the hump. I don't see the Giants, especially with the schedule they play next year, as a playoff team as we sit right here. But I think for Joe Shane, it was the right move. They struck out with Matthew Stafford. Aaron Rodgers wasn't giving them an answer. So you go out and you bring the next best thing in as Russell Wilson.
Yeah, they struck out with a Matthew Stafford. You bring in a vet like Jameis Winston and a Russell Wilson. And Joe Shane's talked about that. A lot of people are talking about that leadership that a quarterback can bring in. It's almost kind of disrespectful to me in a way if I'm a Darius Slayton or Malik Neighbors. Like, do you feel as though like people are looking at a Russell Wilson like he has to come in and be QB1, but also babysit in a way?
I don't see it that way. I think there's a certain moxie or aura around what your QB1 has to bring. Like they have to be a vocal point. They have to be a guy that everybody has a certain level of respect when they walk in a room, and they have to raise the level of the play of the guys around them. And that's not to take a shot at DeVito or Drew Lock or Tim Boyle or Daniel Jones, who all played last year for the Giants. But I got to imagine Dable and Shane felt like they didn't have that in the quarterback room. A guy that can go out there and command the attention of the entire team. Like that's what you need at that quarterback position, because you think about it in a fourth quarter in a 2-minute drill, when that quarterback gets in the huddle and he's locking eyes with everybody, all 10 players in that huddle, they have to truly believe that when that guy touches the ball, he's going to get them all in position to go win the game. So I think that is a big part of it. And the crazy thing with all of this, Daniel Jones is making more money than every quarterback that the Giants has signed, and he was in higher demand this free agency cycle. So the crazy thing is he was a guy that was there, it didn't work. But I think for them, you have to look at this quarterback room going into the draft and feel a lot better where you are right now.
Absolutely. So the fact that Joe Shane went out and grabbed Mr. Unlimited Russell Wilson, do you think that changes up what the Giants are going to do with that third pick?
I don't. I think it gives them the freedom to make the move that's in the best interest of the franchise. This is a conversation we continue to have. If Shador Sanders is there at 3, do you draft him? I look at it for the Giants standpoint. He's yet to have his pro day. They haven't done a private visit and all of those things with him. As you go through this evaluation period, for them, you still need a quarterback for the future. Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston aren't the answer beyond just this year or next year. So for them, where does Shador rank as far as Jackson Dart or a Tyler Shuck or Quinn Ewers and these guys? And where do you see him compared to the guys last year where they fell in love with a Jaden Daniels and a Drake May? Where does these guys compare to those guys? Because if you're going through the evaluation period and you look and you say, hey, Shador Sanders, we really believe in him and he can be our franchise quarterback for the next 15 years, then you draft him at number 3 if you believe that somebody else is going to get him before you get back on the clock in the second round. It doesn't matter to me if you have a star receiver like we saw Malik Neighbors last year if you don't have a quarterback to be able to lead your team.
I'm glad you brought up Malik Neighbors' name. Let's say they do grab Shador Sanders at 3. Now you got Russell Wilson and Shador Sanders throwing you the rock. Who knows who's QB1 and for how long? Yep. Do the expectations for Malik Neighbors change in year 2?
No, I think his expectations, you think about what he did in his rookie year, there's going to be higher expectations just based off of that because of who he did it with. He was out there. I remember talking to him. We had one of their games. He had another situation in high school where he said he had to switch quarterbacks and there was so much going on. But for him to have the season he had last year, a record-breaking season, and to have 4 different guys throw him passes and still be that productive, the expectations for him are going to be through the roof because of he's set a standard for himself. So I think he welcomes that. He loves that. So I don't think it matters whether it's Shador, whether it's Russ, whether it's Jameis. Hell, if DeVito still gets in there, you're going to expect Malik Neighbors to go out there and put up big numbers.
Yeah, he's one of those receivers that falls into that tier of the Terry McLaurins, the Garrett Wilsons, those guys that can still get you a stack no matter who's back there playing quarterback. But so, yeah, a lot of hype around Malik Neighbors. And I think the Russell Wilson or Shador Sanders can unlock a Darius Slayton as well. Here's another guy that's had over 700-plus receiving yards each of his 6 seasons with the New York Giants outside of the seasons where he was injured and all. And he's gone through every quarterback in the book. So them re-signing him, having him at number 2, having that speed out there, and maybe a Russell Wilson can unlock a Jalen Hyatt who didn't get a lot of time. You know, you could stay. Some people stay at the Howard Johnson. A lot of people want to stay at the Hyatt. They want to see this young man shine, especially the fact that Joe Shane and those guys, this regime, drafted him in the 3rd round. I think he's working on not being a one-trick pony, really adding to his routes on the route tree. But again, I look at a guy like Russell Wilson coming in. He'll get those guys. I think he'll get guys right. And I think for now, Giants fans can look at a quarterback who could come in, like you say, have that moxie, have that leadership, and hopefully win some games at MetLife Stadium. Because I, too, am tired of seeing planes fly over as well. But, every year is different. Jay, I appreciate you hopping on with this, man, and taking the time, man. Have a great rest of your offseason, bro.
Yes, sir. You too, man. I'll be seeing you.